right?
Right.
So Marcello kind of narrates himself. I always felt, and this is the line that I put in my show notes, Marcello tries his best to retcon his own past.
Welcome back, everybody. It is week 2 of Italian month for Alex and I. And this week we watched and we'll be talking about 1970s The Conformist by Bernardo Bertolucci. This is a much different movie than Umberto D. It's about 20 years later, 18 years later, in being made, but it actually takes place prior to Umberto D. as far as when it takes place. Its color, and where Umberto D. is this very dignified look at a character. This is, I would say, the opposite. So, do we want to jump right in, or do you want to?
No. This definitely feels different than Umberto D. Not only with like the way it handles the time and place, but also this is shot so much different, edited so much different. Like I mean, De Sica and De Sica and Bertolucci are completely different. This is true, but there's real differences to even how Settimana 2 is going to go for us. So I think we should get right into it.
Due. All right, so real quick recap on what this movie is. It is a story of a fascist secret policeman who is given the task of setting up an old professor of his to be killed because the old professor is anti-fascist, Antifa, if you will.
Yes.
And so that's the whole idea of the movie. The reason why it's called The Conformist is that the main character, whose name is escaping me, conforms. He conforms to the fascist government, as we'll talk about in a little bit. He conforms once the fascist government falls. He is a coward who goes any way the wind goes, essentially, and that is where the title comes from.
The way he handles all of his assignments that he gets from different characters in the film, it's always just like "Si, commendatore." Like it's always just "Yes, I will do. Yes, I will go." He's
a stooge.
He's a stooge. He's an asset of the state, but then at the same time, much like Marcello, there it is. Much like we all probably have someone in our lives that will always mold. Marcello is definitely, he always molds. He's always going to be what they need at that time. And in many situations, you'll see that even though you might question what you're supposed to be doing, he never did.
Right. And I think that, like, when we think of a stooge or somebody who does that, we think of a character who probably is very maybe even to some extent knows that's what they are. But I think that Marcello he thinks that he's like awesome. Like, I think he's like, I'm upper class, I'm living the life. I'm like, I think he has an idea that he is the shit. So anyway, for that's the basic concept. I know we haven't done a focus on a movie in a few weeks because we kind of lost that thread. This week I have one that I think is the clear winner. I'll drop it now and then we can talk to it as it comes up throughout. Blocking. This movie uses blocking in really, really important ways.
No, you're not kidding.
Which is it's interesting too, because I was watching this movie and I think about I'm thinking about the the visual and audio style feels very much like The Godfather. Now, this is 2 years before The Godfather.
It does.
I read that there was an influence on The Godfather by this movie, which is I went and looked for that because I'm like, there is no way it couldn't have been, right? Including
Yeah.
one of the characters in this movie is in Godfather 2.
There's that.
But so watching this movie, I was like, oh, this feels very much like The Godfather. When I say blocking, from what I know of Francis Ford Coppola, his style of directing actors. Now he did a lot of different, director is directing actors, is directing a cinematographer, is directing audio design, doing all of that. But when you're directing actors specifically, lots of directors have lots of takes, and he has a kind of a more theater approach to the way he approaches actors.
Yeah.
When we talk about The Godfather, he had them all come for a big dinner where they read the script at dinner instead of like a table read. They did it like they were a family, like a big family style Italian dinner. And when you look at blocking in this movie, blocking is, I think it plays some really important visual style things, but there's some deep metaphorical reasons for
Yeah.
the blocking the way it is. Anyway, so that's where I think that this movie, that's the focus that I think is that this movie is very purposeful with, for anybody who doesn't know, blocking is how the actors move in relation to each other and the characters, and the camera. And so it's we think of acting a lot of times as as vocal inflection and visual, but also in this case it is, it's almost choreography. Blocking is almost like non-dance choreography essentially.
Yeah.
And so blocking in this,
yeah.
all right.
So the blocking here, it was always like there was even a good understanding of space.
Mm-hmm.
And blocking is a study in space, but I mean, like, because we're dealing with Italian actors and we're dealing with someone who writes out, who directed the blocking use very correctly or very intentionally.
Yeah.
Like, Marcello will be. There's almost a distance, almost uses cowardice when you're looking at the way that the characters or the actors will stack from the lens to the background.
Mm-hmm.
So Marcello often watches from like the edge of a room,
Mm-hmm.
or behind glass, or from inside a car, or from behind someone else's shoulder. Like, his character is often partially obstructed by someone or something, and that adds so much depth to this character being a conformist to a cause, because he's never acting in himself as like a strong person. He's always in service to something.
Right.
So yeah, I actually think blocking is going to be a fantastic focus for this episode. Good call, filmmaker.
Thank you. And so this movie is a look at fascism. I like your normalcy is the drug. Like they, we see, and I will say, like, this is again, like, kind of like last week about not knowing that much about the historical Italian. Like, I understand that Mussolini was in charge, but I've always learn. I know the least about that of the three. I forget, are they the Axis or the whatever powers from the from World War II? Like, I know more about the German setup, and I know we as a
we're not
society,
very good Italians in this, are we?
No, well,
we're not very good Italian Americans that we know so much about the German side of it. So,
I was going to say, the German side, I think most people know more about, and the Japanese side, as Americans, we've talked, because of what we did to Japan in that process, and how Japan, and Pearl Harbor. I feel like we just know more about those other two fronts of the war than we do about the Italian front, and about what was going on in Italy. It's it always, every time even if you watch The Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin, which you should watch if you haven't seen it already, Mussolini is seen as like the like sidekick in so much, it's like this is the like secondary, like, hey boss, how's it going boss, kind of like vibe to Hitler. And so like you don't think of it as its own specific thing when it very clearly was. And there was, I know that, like, I'm pretty sure Mussolini is who gave the Vatican to the church as its own
To the
separate
church, yeah.
country, and he kind of united a lot of the regions were like separate, like city states almost, like Naples
Yeah,
and
okay.
Rome. So I knew that going into this. I knew all the good stuff that Mussolini. No, but you also have to keep in mind, all of my family came to America before Mussolini took power. So
right, and
we don't have
we just yeah.
we didn't have that family like trait of like we came here fleeing the way a lot of Jews do about Germany, or like
Yeah,
our
true.
family came here in the midst. My family, the last of my family came before World War One. And so I just don't have that connection to it in that way.
No, the best way, the best visual example I have always used for like, well, what was Mussolini like? And given our current political climate here in the U.S., you all have probably seen a black and white picture of a building, and it's got a big, like, menacing looking face on it that's as tall as the building, and the entire front of the building has SI written on it over and over and over again. That is a picture of the main building, Mussolini's main office, if you will. And it was literally a picture of his face. It is. I think it was the headquarters of the Italian Communist Party, and it is just over and over and over again the word "yes" written on the front. Oh, you haven't seen this before?
I have not. No.
So you're looking at it now, like that's it.
It
looks like the Wizard of fucking Oz. Like,
see, I was going to say I can't possibly imagine that this isn't directly the visual inspiration for 1984, the adaptation of 1984. Like,
okay.
It looks like a big face on screen in front of a sea of yes. Like, it is. I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah, that is terrifying.
Oh, it's seriously terrifying. So that is a good example of how much Mussolini took on the Adolf Hitler like methods. And it was very much like, I am the biggest, baddest thing in this room. I run all, I see all, I am all. Right. That was very much how Mussolini had the visual representation of his power. So I'm not saying that I love that Marcello was such a weakie or such a person lacking his own identity.
I've seen this building in real life, by the way.
You have not?
I have,
no
but
way.
It doesn't have that up there, obviously.
No, of course,
I walked by it because I'm looking at the map right now as to where it was, and where we stayed on our honeymoon and where we had dinner one night is like opposite sides of that building. Like, we had to have walked by it.
Crazy, dude.
But if you look at the facade now without that on it, you wouldn't necessarily know much about it. Like, it just looks like a building. Now they've taken the C's off. And stuff,
the C's off. So I often make a joke to a lot of people that, I live in America. And then someone from Europe will be like, I live in Europe, where the history's from. Like, that's the statement. And you're right. You literally ate or stayed right near that visual 100-something years later. Like that's crazy talk, And to think that we're watching a movie in 1970 with blocking that is so just intentional that it even brings that idea into real life on screen. Yeah. The idea that the idea that Mussolini was so much this all watching power that there is no way you can get away from. Oh man, speaking of that, the scene that makes me think, I just got chills thinking about it. The scene that makes me like, holy shit, this movie twice was when he was talking to the dude at the radio station.
Yeah.
And he was like, so you know what I need you to do, right? You know. And because us as Italian Americans, and also us growing up in the Northeast as Italian Americans, we saw folks that were pseudo mafia,
Yeah.
or were cosplaying as mafia members, right?
I was like, anybody I saw was cosplaying. I grew up in suburban Massachusetts. I didn't see mafia. I saw some people who would love you to think they were mafia. I went to school with a kid who used to be like, "You're going to regret that," and I'm like, "Why? Why am I going to regret that?"
So I did, and I worked amongst them, and I had family members that I'm pretty sure I will solidly suspect were, right. And I would be in the scenario that how should I say this? There's the expectation that it's like it's fashionable, or it's often like a fantasy to be one of the wise guys that has a broad at home, that and basically Tony Soprano, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a romanticism that often is placed on that kind of a lifestyle. This film breaks that hard and shows what it was genuinely like to be involved in that during World War II era, and more importantly, be involved in that as a stooge, as a tool, as a how should I say this? As a person who is who is tasked with disseminating this. And so when he's talking to him in that scene, when that perfect like melody of those ladies singing behind that glass is, and he just kind of sits back and crosses his legs as my dad used to, and say, "You know what you need to do, don't you? These are your marching orders, son. Like, you know." And then without any like qualm in his mind, Marcelo's just, sure do. And then more importantly, the other one that hit me was when he was in the car and he had the flashbacks of when he was a kid on the roller skates.
Mm-hmm.
That was another one that, like, you got this little bit of glimpse of like how bad it was for him as a kid, or like what he experienced as a child. But then at the same time, you kind of saw that he's a little bit human, but not really. He's a little bit delicate isn't the right word. He's a little bit flawed.
Yeah.
But in a childish kind of way. So that's another scene. We're still in pre-production. So yeah, normalcy is the drug, fascism is the dealer. That's the piece that I put in our show notes, and that is one of the things that kept clicking for me. Is like, this is what everybody needs to do, and fascism was just like, here's how you get it. Here's how you get it. Just every time he was being fed. And you're saying blocking. How many times did you see scenes in this where like the brutalism style of architecture, or even the way that the brutalist was shot, you kept seeing like some likenesses, that movie that you and I saw together?
Yeah.
Like, it's there.
I mean, I didn't make the connection, but yeah, I can see that. It's especially when you talk about the it's like a rooftop scene. I forget what was on the rooftop scene. It's like I'm spacing, but yeah, no, it was good.
So for me, the film builds a life kind of project around erasing the abnormal or less desirable parts of Marcelo's person. So like his desire, his fear, his trauma. And fascism for him offers like a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging in a club that, let's be serious, if you're not a member, you're about to have a hard time. You're about to have a bad week, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and his relationship plays very much, if he looks the part, he will become the part.
Right.
And there are so many times where he'll go speak to a general, or he'll go speak to members that are higher up in the mafioso or in the Communist Party or Fascist Party, and it will always just be, if I look right, I'll be right. If I look right, I'll be right. I kept pausing it and making notes like that at the time codes. I was like, yeah, he looks the part, he'll be the part. He looks the part, he'll be the part. Even the opening scene where he's in the hotel, even that opening scene, he's checking the gun and he pours himself a drink and he gets all nice and sharply dressed. Like there's so many of these scenes where it's wearing the costume of fascism to protect his best interest, and his best interest is not being killed, or at minimum not being ostracized.
Right. So you have in here in your notes, Julia isn't romance, she's cover. And I agree, but I have a little bit of like I want to expand on that a little bit. So
okay,
Julia is his fiance at the beginning, wife throughout the movie. And then the professor that we talked about earlier, is married to Anna, who he is seemingly more romantic with. I don't quite get where the relationship was started out. Was she also a student, or I couldn't follow that. But he is very clearly more into Anna than he is into Julia.
Very true.
And Anna thinks he is a fascist, and she still has her moments where she's like almost like wanting to. I think she's almost using her sexuality to try to get her and her husband safe from him. Like she's like,
that's what I thought. Yeah, that's why I saw it as cover.
Well, no, but but that's Anna, not Julia.
Oh, sorry, that's Anna. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Anna's using that like to try to, she's like, look, I will sleep. That's how I read that was I'm going to sleep with you, but you can't kill my husband. And he is like, we can just go sneak. We can go sneak off together. We can go live together. Blah blah blah. And
it was like trading sex for protection. It was trading affection for protection, even though she may have been aware of it. It would never happen. Didn't change how she didn't try.
Right. So she to me is a what he would probably see as like a cheaper version of what he's doing, because she dislikes him. She is open about the fact that she dislikes what he's become or whatever. But she's willing to do what it takes to survive, how he sees himself. But she's like going to prostitute herself to do that, right? To save her and her husband. His wife is the same as him, except she's so much more innocent seeming, because she's dumb. Like she's played dumb. And we don't necessarily see much of it until, so he ends up having Anna and the professor killed, Professor Quadri killed. And that's pretty much like the second to last big scene of the movie, is them getting killed. And then we see him looking at one of his kid in a crib that he like 3-year-old kid he's putting into a crib. And we realize he's married. He's fully, with Julia now, and things seem to be okay. And it's the fall of fascism. So it's obviously been a couple years, because the kid's a couple years old, right? It's the fall of fascism. While that's going on, we kind of are seeing all these little things bombard us about, Mussolini being kicked out by the king, and all these other things. And there's a couple pieces of blocking that come into here too. But so we see he's getting ready to go see Italo, who's his blind friend from the party, who was at that radio station doing the reading. Italo's in the movie a bunch of times.
The dance hall party? Is that the one you're thinking of?
The radio station. So he's going. So when I say the party, I mean the fascist party.
Sorry, I was like, the party.
He's in the fascist party with them. He's going to see Italo because of the fall of Mussolini, And she kind of, so the really interesting piece is he's getting ready and walking out, and there's this this doorway, like half wall, like full height wall, but like it's almost a triangle of rooms, right? And so we're seeing from the one triangle, she's in another, and he's in like the hallway room that about to leave, and they can see each other through a doorway, and the camera can see both of them. But there is the visual of the wall separating them, and they are on like opposite ends, not fully, but almost on opposite ends of each room, as showing that like there is an at odds there, and we don't know. Because we've flashed forward a couple years, and he is a fascist, and the fall of fascism is happening, and we don't know what's about to happen. And there's a little bit of confrontation on her part about like him going out in the middle of it. And then finally she says, Anna told me that you're a fascist and that you had people killed or did something. You're part of the secret police. So there's this like, oh, this confrontation. Oh no, this is going to happen. And she walks through and says, and I told her, if it's a better opportunity for you, you should take it. And you're like, oh, she is perfect for him because she is an opportunist and a conformist as well.
I was about to say that was that moment where I'm like, you've been him the whole time.
It's the most clear of the blocking things. There's two other examples I want to give too. So that I thought was a really good like show that Julia is the better match for him, whereas Anna is almost like a foil to him.
I was going to say Anna's the best for his purpose. Julia's the best for his person.
Yes, yeah.
So there's a lot of expectation that she's part of that perfect box that he needs to fit in.
Right.
But he really is much better off with.
Oh yeah, he would be a better person because he would go leave the cause for Anna if that, and he would be a better person for sure. So from there, let's go. I want to go into the next piece of blocking that I think is really important. So like I said a minute ago, Italo is a blind man who is a fascist. So he goes and he finds Italo, who's standing under what are those called, acrostics, where it's the poem. Isn't that what it is? The poem where you spell the word with all the other words. So it's like Alex would be like awesome, loser, example,
extraordinary,
xylophone. So you spell out a word. So they've done that with Mussolini on this big like protest sign that's posted. It's not being held, it's posted, and it says Mussolini, and it's like it's in Italian. It's funny because the subtitles come up and it's like it's out of order because and all the words acrostic.
You were right. Yep.
Okay. So
acrostic. You were right. Yeah.
So
acrostic.
Because he's a blind man, he's standing underneath it. He doesn't probably know it's there, and he still has his fascist party pin on him.
Yeah.
And so
it was so much meaning. Like it was so much like the visuals, just heavy weight there.
Yeah. And so it's funny because we have this character of Marcello who is he's not a leader. He's a follower completely. Yeah. But he acts as a leader to Italo in so many circumstances because he has to. Like he'll lead him by the arm because he's a blind man. He has to lead him. And in this moment we see he's like, you forgot this pin. Like take the pin off. They're going to see the fascism pin on you. And and we're like, oh, okay, like he's leading him out of it, and then they go walk and they go stroll, and they stumble upon these two presumably gay men, although like it does play as one is a pederast and the other is maybe a guy who's basically a prostitute, or is doing what he needs to do. There was a moment in earlier in the movie where we see that Marcello was molested as a child. And so we think this is the man who molested. It is the man who molested.
Well, we're kind of thinking,
I mean, I think it was the same actor. That's why it's like a young man with really old makeup on, looking kind of stupid. It's like, but I was like, why is that? And I was like, oh, because it's the same actor. I got you. So he he hears them and sees them like playing footsie and like basically like flirting and trying to, you know, like score a deal. Like, I give you these shoes if you give me something. He says to the other man. And so Marcello and Italo are walking by, and Marcello is pissed because this is the man who molested him. And he knows that the easiest way to be on the opposite side of the hunted fascists is to point out a fascist. And so he asks him, is your name Lino, and where were you on this day 1917?
Yeah.
Which must be when he was molested. And then he asks him, where were you the day that Quadri and Anna died, which he knows he wasn't there. He's just like, I'm going to pin this murder on you.
Right.
Because I know that,
right,
you know,
then.
And so then he starts, you know, and it's like, okay, the guy molested you. I don't entirely blame you for like throwing that guy under the bus. Like, fair. And he starts yelling, una fascista, una pederasta, and he starts, you know, calling him a fascist.
Like, loud.
So the mob will come. And as the guy runs away, he's done it, but he also is like, okay, this is the new power, is like pointing out fascists. And so he immediately turns on Italo and is like, he's a fascist. And he like turns on Italo.
Once again is a conformist.
Yeah, who is like, Italo is just like lost, you know, because he can't see. And he's like, and so like there's a point where he steps a few feet away from him and a crowd comes. This is another example of blocking that I think is amazing, which is, say, Marcello's here, Italo is, you know, here. They're like,
and they start to separate
5 to 10 feet away from each other, and the crowd overtakes them. And Italo is like, Marcello, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And Marcello just kind of starts to blend in with the crowd and conform to the crowd.
So he's completely singled out, and it is.
Yeah, and he like just like
I just got chills again. Yeah, that scene, away. Dude, is oh god.
And again, it's like perfectly blocked in that way. Like it tells you everything you need to know, and that's if it's not the final shot, it's like the second to last shot. I think the final shot was, I'm forgetting. Doesn't matter. But it's, you know, it's the last meaningful shot, right? And you're like, oh shit, like this guy just did, like, you get it when he does it to Lino.
That's second to last, because the regime is the last scene. So the assassination is like right at the end there. I mean, it's probably the biggest peak, and then you know, we're in resolution phase after that. But yeah. I mean, and I really think the ending.
I thought that was
good.
I was gonna say, I thought that was a really good bit of really selling the entire movie in that shot of, he's a conformist. We're gonna see how, because for the rest of the movie, you've seen him in. It's hard to tell if somebody is the thing if you haven't seen them outside that context. You need the outside context to reiterate or to specify. In this case, it's like, was he a fascist, or is he an opportunist who will just sell out any morals that he has? And we don't know. We don't know if he's a meaningful fascist. We kind of think so, because he's talking about leaving it all with Anna. But we don't know for sure, especially because he doesn't go and do that. But now, in the context of post-fascism, we see him, you know, like, oh no, he's just gonna be an opportunist. And from what we saw of Julia earlier, it's safe to say Julia will be like, well, that must have been the right move. Like
she would have been like, you did what you had to. It was the right thing. Yeah, she would cop to it faster than girl 2 would have.
Anna,
thank you. But I really think like that scene. So the murder isn't just what happens in that scene, that blending in and away. It's how Marcello is blocked away from doing anything human.
Mm-hmm.
So he is just blocking is serving his character, but it even serves the scene.
Yeah.
In the way that he just comes to a close, and then everything is about him. Everything is about his victim. It's got nothing to do with Marcello anymore. So that's
and
that
almost
that
all of his blocking.
I'm serious. That scene's powerful, dude.
Almost all of his blocking with Manganiello, or Manganello, who he's essentially like his handler, from what I can tell. it plays to this idea that he wants like deniability. He wants all of the perks with all the deniability, because at the very couple first scenes we see him, physically close-ish to Manganiello, but every other scene he's like further and further. So like at one point he's like, I can't, you got to go like over there, like you're gonna blow my cover, and then by the last scene, I think it's the last scene we see them together, is the restaurant party scene, whatever that is, where Manganiello's on one side and Marcello's on the other side. That's also an amazing scene. So they're blocked, and like everybody else leaves the room for a bit for this conga line, and they have to kind of face
they
each
just kind of lay low behind. Yeah.
And then Manganiello kind of he's like, okay, you do what you got to do, and like leaves. And then the entire conga line comes and starts circling. It's Anna and Julia, and they're circling, and you're getting him. You got an angle that's kind of downward, like it's like the ceiling corner of the ceiling, and you can see him getting lost as the crowd overtakes him, and
it's like when the murder happens. Same sort of thing, but just played out earlier, where he becomes the focal point of the scene. That time for a good reason. Later on for a not so good reason.
Yep. So I think I do. Also, Manganiello, for everybody that's listening, Manganiello is played by the actor Gaston Malchine, who, if you're familiar with The Godfather 2, is Fanucci, or the Black Hand. That's the guy that that is like the boss before De Niro unscrews the light bulb, wraps the towel around Don Fanucci, and he kills him, and it's funny too, because this is only 4 years before Godfather 2, and the guy looks like he's 30 years younger.
Oh, no joke. Dude, he looks so different. You're right.
I was like, that guy looks familiar. Why does he look familiar? And then I was like, oh, it's Don Fanucci. Like,
it's the Fanucci, yeah. So check this out. When Marcello walks in to that giant concrete building in the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And it's shot from like 7 floors up, down at that giant L-shaped desk, and there's like one person sitting at it. It is so much of the blocking in use, because the characters are like nothing in that scene. They're little dots. They could be puppets for all I care. Like, they got nothing to do with that scene. That scene is all about the power that the Communist Party has, because they can afford these giant, grandiose buildings, or they probably took them over from someone else. But these giant, grandiose buildings and these tiny people at this giant, like, visual that is everything in that scene is more important than they are. Everything. And it is edited in such a way that the audio's pushed down. You hear the echoing of the footsteps. Like, that's a powerful thing. It might have just been how it was, like, audio produced, but it was obvious that, like, that was meant to be a highlight of that.
Yeah.
And the neolinear structure in that and other scenes, it's like psychology, in that the film moves kind of like memory and rationalization, not just a straight, like, linear feel, right?
Right.
So Marcello kind of narrates himself. I always felt, and this is the line that I put in my show notes, Marcello tries his best to retcon his own past into innocence. Like, oh, I wasn't that bad a guy because I did the right thing in the end. It was very much,
I had my qualms
beget the means. I do too.
Yeah.
I absolutely do too.
No, I'm saying him. He's like, I had my
Oh yeah.
He thought about not doing it at one point with because Anna, and and so he has these moments of like, see, I'm a good guy. I hesitated.
Yeah,
but he did it.
No, agreed. And that scene. Where is he walking into? Is that like is that supposed to be like the main office of the party or something?
I understood
when he's walking into that big concrete building. It almost looks like a prison.
I think.
So the I'm going to get this wrong. Storaro's light and shadow play and the fascist architecture, like that scene solidified how I knew this was going to feel.
Yeah.
And when I say knew how this was going to feel, Umberto D, our previous week's film, thank you all for watching that one as well, is softer. The architecture's more of like a backdrop, the way that Paris was a backdrop in Ratatouille.
Right.
This film, the structure and rigid lines and straight 90-degree angles and very like concrete gray, just it was all so trapping and meant to give like a visual of order and structure. And Einstein, it was very much meant to like look very, very empower and austere almost.
Yeah.
All of the costuming, another big favorite of mine, all the costuming is very much of the time. And I appreciate that it was all done absolutely well, period. Mm-hmm. But the 1970s in Italy was still, you couldn't just go down the street and get costumes like this. A lot of this was going to have to be purpose made for this film. And the architecture, to think that some of this architecture is still in place, and with a tiny bit of set dressing and editing, it looks like it's today. Like it didn't take long to pull this out and put it in that time period. So the architecture doesn't just look pretty. It trapped the characters inside this very big structure of order and purpose. And that always made me feel almost uncomfortable. But I like that kind of, I like neorealism. I like Bauhaus architecture. I like brutalist architecture. I would live in a house that had concrete floors if my wife wouldn't be crazy about it. So to me, like that's what I want to live in. I want to live in that very clean, structured place, but I want green everywhere. Shut up. Asshole.
Una fascista.
So what, like for editing, because the blocking is a big part of editing, or at least serving the blocking with the editing.
Yeah. Oh, I think that is obviously like my favorite thing about the movie is like they like you have, I mentioned it a few weeks ago at some point. I think it was when we were watching Violent Night. I forget exactly about how like if the camera and blocking, I didn't say blocking, but if all of that is moving correctly, it helps you unconsciously like follow everything. It's people have said that that's why James Cameron's action sequences are so good, is because he understands blocking and understands where to put the camera, and so like you never are like, wait, what? Like there's never a jarring thing that moves you out of it. It like it flows together. This, you're using blocking in a more metaphorical, like emotional sense, and it felt natural. Like I mean, I was looking at it critically, but I think that it was like, oh, this is working so smoothly to really sell the point. And I watched the first episode of the Scorsese doc series that's on Apple TV a few weeks ago. And he's talking at one point about, he's talking about Taxi Driver, which is 6 years after this. And he's talking about how you've got most of the shots of Travis Bickle. He's the only one in frame, or if he's like on that date with Sybil Shepherd, he's out of frame. Like it's not over shoulder. He's out of frame entirely to separate him. And this movie does that.
But he's like right over there. Like you always know he's literally at the cutoff. Right. And it's a visual, it's visual purpose. I like it.
Yeah. And this movie, after Scorsese points that out about Taxi Driver, I was able to like watch this movie and I was like, oh, this is so purposeful. And it's not in a way that feels ham-handed. It just feels like
you can just make out Marcello in those separated scenes, like behind glass, but just behind someone's shoulder. Like it looks so artistic, but it is artistic, but it's also like real purposeful.
Yeah. My only negative, the thing that I would say that they could have been improved is I've already mentioned it. Lino's makeup. That's the. But I mean, it's tough because you have this guy who's supposed to be like I'm guessing he's supposed to be 20 at the scene where he molests Marcello. 20 or so, and then you have him 30 or 40 years later, and you're casting somebody to play a 60-year-old or whatever, while that guy's probably 25, and so you've got it. They probably shaved his head and gave him this thinner hair, and they spray painted it white, and then so it's not, that is literally the only thing that I was like, this takes me out of it, and because I also didn't recognize who it was supposed to be for a minute. If you take that out of the equation, I think it's really good.
Okay,
I didn't realize who it was until he started saying, even when he started saying like, "Where were you on the night of October, whatever, 1917?" I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. I don't know what the hell this is. It wasn't until he started yelling, "Un pederasta" or whatever. And I was like, oh, he's the guy who molested him. Like, that was not clear to me. And again, that could
I think that was intentional in a good way, that it led to that crescendo of you finally putting those two together. Because even though we are not native Italian speakers, I don't think, based on how those lines were delivered and how the crescendo of that scene happened, I think it was even intentional for native Italian speakers to be like, that's what it was. So,
and I think it was also like, okay, I think that was all that scene, which this is something that works for me, is having that character be there in that scene is the thing that, like, there's a moment where you're like, okay, I get it. This guy is Marcello's not a great guy. He's kind of going to turn on stuff, like turn on the ideology. That's the whole point of the conformist. But he's turning on the guy who molested him. So you can like kind of And then you realize that like if once the switch is flipped, it's not going back.
No,
it was like a perfect transition to show him then turn on Italo. Like if he had just turned on Italo, you'd be like, you'd almost feel like, is that realistic? Like after he pulled the pin off of him earlier, like I think this was like the perfect transition that he needed to be believably scummy, No,
I agree. And the cars in this movie, when Marcello's riding around in a vehicle, the scenes were like, that is the whole scene.
Yeah.
I really think the cars are like, they're Marcello's true home, because he's close enough to witness what's going on, but he's sealed off enough to avoid the responsibility of the fallout of these decisions.
Yeah.
And in many situations,
and a car can pull away right as if it gets messy.
Right. Like, he can have an escape right away. Yeah. So even if his enemy is immediately in that car with him, he can get out, which in one scene he does. So there's a lot of situations where I think the audience was challenged to try to do a morality check on Marcello's decisions as a member of the party, and the people that he legitimately hurt or killed, or had hurt or killed. Even his blind friend was someone that there's a little bit of, I mean, he did molest him. The audience has a check on that.
Well, Italo didn't molest him. It was the other guy.
Not Italo, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so, Italo, we don't really see Italo do or say anything terrible. Italo is just kind of a party stooge. And we don't see him. Yes, but we see Marcello at least sign up for some stuff to we see him kind of being a little more intense. This is more like somebody who's like, hey, I don't agree with everything, but I did vote for it, but I don't agree with everything. That's what Italo could reasonably be. He could be like, I just thought he was going to make the economy better. I didn't really think he was going to.
So perfect. I didn't vote for all of this.
Yeah.
God, that's so perfect. So the cars for me were always that for him.
Yeah.
The cars were always, he was just far enough away and a way to escape from the consequences of his decisions, or the way Marcello puts it, the consequences of the party's decisions, that he is only acting out for them, almost like he can sit at distance from them and not be in any way super directly responsible for what goes down.
Right.
Yeah. Cited as a visual landmark, it helps Seraro's like international reputation for this film to take him even farther than his other works did. And he went on to, for cinematography, he went on to do A Rainy Day in New York, Apocalypse Now, The Last Emperor, Last Tango in Paris. Like this dude is no stranger to accolades, and even Dick Tracy from 1990.
Yeah.
So his cinematography chops are there. They are for sure. And it also had an Oscar nomination for adapted screenplay. So studio notes for this are just go see it. It's worth it.
Yeah. It's definitely worth
I know
it.
it's more. I know it's more denouement, but like for real, like
there,
yeah.
I would say I don't have many hot takes.
I don't
for
either.
this. I think that like when I hope that if you haven't already seen it, that me saying, oh, it's very very clearly influential for The Godfather does not make you go like, oh yeah, like I hope you don't go in with that eye for it. Like just enjoy it on its own. Because it is a pretty different movie in a lot of ways. But it's
more artistic.
It's
more artistic than The Godfather for me. Like it's more of a film nerd film. Like you could be assigned to watch this for a film class more than you'd be assigned to watch The Godfather for a film class. It has that artistic feel more than The Godfather feels like.
This feels more like
The Godfather feels more like a documentary.
The Godfather is more conventional in those ways, I guess. Yeah, but
it's easier to digest than this.
Yeah, I mean,
English language or not,
is arguably the greatest film ever made.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, but this movie is a little more experimental in some of those things, and
And when I say artistic, that's more what I'm thinking. Like, there's more challenging scenes and shots in this for an average film audience than there is in The Godfather, where The Godfather is some of the same kind of like story beats, but easier to digest because you have easier to understand characters. Obviously, it's English language. You have easier to you can know even less about history, and The Godfather clicks and makes sense. This, you need to you pause it and go research a little bit to make sure that you're on board, because this Vittorio definitely has some more challenging things here. And Bertolucci has some more challenging things here for a film audience. Bertolucci went on to make like The Dreamers. Also, he was Last Emperor, also Last Tango, 1990.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of films that even Bernardo Bertolucci had.
1900.
Sorry, 1900. So there's also more of a challenging film, more of a challenging resume for Bertolucci as well.
So my that's where I think is interesting too, is like I am familiar with Bertolucci from, everybody hears about The Last Tango in Paris, right? Last Tango in Paris being this like thing. I couldn't remember the name of it, and when I was telling my uncle that we were doing this podcast, I was like, don't worry, we're not doing. I said we're not doing the creepy Marlon Brando Butter movie, because I couldn't remember the name of Last Tango in Paris.
I like how that's your memory of this. The creepy Marlon Brando Butter movie.
I mean, that's what people remember is Marlon Brando the butter scene, right? I have seen a little bit of that movie and was like not into it. I would like to rewatch it potentially, although now there's a big problematic side of it where the actress says she was assaulted in that scene. So like I don't know that I'd want to see it, but
Maria.
Yeah. But but you like, so that's what he's probably most famous for, right? When people think about him is that movie. Then there are the couple things where I have actually seen all the way through before The Conformist, which people, I mean, The Last Emperor, Best Picture winner, 1987. You know, it's a great movie. It's English language and it takes place in China. It's a really different kind of movie for him. The other movie that I'd seen by him, which I saw it in religion class in high school, is Little Buddha. And so like you have these like so you're thinking about this like very notoriously sexual director, right? And then the two movies that I have from him are the least sexual movies of his oeuvre. And so like and so going into this and you know, like if you, I forget where I saw it, but I did see about The Conformist someone say like a mixture of sex and politics, or an examination of sex and politics. And there is that, but it makes it sound, especially when you think about this is the butter guy, right? You're like, oh, it's going to be so intense. And it's like, really? We see like boobs in a couple of like makeout sessions that we know will be sex. Like we're not seeing, we're not seeing like real graphic stuff, which is what I was not, you know, that's what I would think of if you said, oh, this is probably the same director as Last Tango in Paris. So I thought this was a much more like, there's nothing in this movie where I'm like, this is excessive. This is
no. It feels like 1970s Italian director. It does. It doesn't feel like 1970s Italian director smut. It feels like 1970s Italian director. Sexual freedom is okay in movies kind of thing. Like it has that feel to it to me more.
Right. But I will also say that like all of the nudity and sex in this movie, I think if you take any of it out, it changes the movie. Like pretty much. Whereas I feel so like it's not it's not just there for the sake of like, let's get some titillation. Like it's like
it's always with purpose.
Yes, yeah.
It has gravity. It's not just these two people are going to fuck because it's hot. Like it's never that.
Anna is like, you know, she lowers her dress and is like, you know, because she knows that Marcello, like, this is her chance to save her husband and possibly her own life. Boom, let's you know. When we see Julia with him, it is like her. It kind of shows how naive she is in some ways and how vulnerable she is with the fact that she was with a 60-year-old man when she was 15 and kind of showing again, they're the same. We don't always see that, you know, like I think a lot of people think, oh, older man, younger woman is like more understandable in some ways than, you know, obviously a homosexual version of that. And, but it's not like there's no, you know, I'm sure like the dynamics are slightly different, but like the morality is not necessarily different unless, you know, obviously there's a difference between forcible and manipulative. But so we see another, you know, relation to how they are to the same in those ways. And so when they're having sex, or the little scenes that we see of them sexually and nudity wise, which are brief, we understand that like this is them kind of connecting in, you know, on a another level.
I can see that. I can agree. It has that feel. Yeah.
All right. For this one, do we recommend this film? We already kind of gave away the game on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. We both do. Like seriously.
Yeah. This one is like, is it the most fun movie you're ever going to watch? No.
No.
But it's not boring. It is not, you know, this isn't a chore to watch.
No, it's even the subject matter being heavy and gritty. It's pretty. It's pretty in a film kind of way to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. There's very few moments that are uncomfortable. There's almost nothing that I thought was boring. The discomfort parts are purposeful. They're brief. They're not, you know, like we're not, you know, like I've said before, there's some amazing movies that I never want to watch again, like Precious and Requiem for a Dream, where you're just like, oh, the whole time watching the movie, like it's so uncomfortable. This isn't that.
No.
And so like this movie, I mean, I will probably rewatch this movie.
Oh, I know I'm
because
going
I
to.
think,
There's no
yeah,
doubt I'm going to. Like, it feels like it. You know, when I watch the Italian Job, whether the modern or the original, or when
yeah,
I watch um the Ocean's films, right?
hmm
Like, they have this slick, fun kind of a feel to them. This doesn't feel slick and fun. It feels
no,
slick and European. And I like
yeah,
that because it feels like I'm watching something that's an art film. It feels like I'm
yeah,
experiencing something. I'm not watching something take place on a screen in like a modern
right,
film kind of way. And some of the other modern films we've watched, we've rated highly, but we know what we're
yeah.
watching. It's that for a different reason. And that's why our ratings for fun and watchability and quality are subjective, because
I
this
will,
is
I
about
will say
enjoying it.
this. I'll say this about The Conformist. When I finished watching it, I was in the car watching it the other day, and I looked at Sarah and I said, "This is the kind of movie I wanted to make this podcast to force myself to watch, like to like have an excuse to watch." Like the
Okay.
movie where you're like, would I ever just sit down for fun and put on The Conformist?
Right, right. Hey, man, I'm going to watch The
Not
Conformist,
having
honey. You
not
want to
seen it,
join? Right.
not having not seen it. Now
Yeah.
I will probably, it's, not to say that I haven't enjoyed most of our movies. You know which one I haven't enjoyed. Um, but
Mm.
A Christmas Story. But like,
I was pausing. I was like, just say it so everyone knows.
but like, ultimately, it was not a big deal to get my family to watch The Grinch with me. Any of the versions. Not a big deal to get them to watch Tick Tick Boom or Ratatouille, or but to like this is the kind of movie where it's like, oh, I won't necessarily give this the proper attention unless I give
Yeah.
myself an excuse to. So that was kind of like, oh, when I finished this movie, I'm like, this is the first one where I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I wanted when I was picking this. Now, is all like when you and I went and saw The Brutalist last year, that was kind of me being like, I want to see this movie and I don't know that I'll ever get to give it the proper attention at
Yeah.
home,
No.
right?
I
Like with
100% agree with that. And this kind of feels the same way, in
yeah,
that it it is the film that I'm not going to go, you know what I feel like? I feel like a movie about fascist Italy, and I want some death and sex. Yeah. That's what. No,
yeah,
I'm never going to say that out loud, but agreed. I'm looking at the list because we're both on the same page now. I'm looking at the list and I can see, you know what? Would have never given that but time. Would have never given that but time. This is another one. I
yeah,
would have never given it the time to dedicate to watch it, because these are films that don't have this huge acclaim. And to be honest, they're not easy to show on television for censorship reasons. But
yeah.
like, you're unless you're an absolute film nerd, or you're in a film class, or you're these two guys who want to make a podcast about a journey through film, like, this is when this is when you would want to watch this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And there were times
Yep.
where I would tell my wife, I was like, I am so glad I'm doing this because this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Umberto D feels different. It's society kills with indifference. This one is society kills with participation.
Yeah.
So these both have some of the same. I like how we pick these two. These both have some of the same, like looming evil going on, but our main characters in both approach it completely different. So for
Right.
Dénouement, what is your recommendation? Of course, what's your rating?
Fun and watchability is a 7. 7 is a C. It's a passing grade. I didn't think there was anything that was not watchable. It wasn't fun. That's why it's not like an 8 or a 9. Because I was at no point was I like, yeah. Quality wise, I was like a 9. I think that I really, really liked this movie. And whereas I liked Umberto D. I don't know that I'll be going back to Umberto D. If that's one of those ones where if somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to watch this movie?" Yeah, this one is one where I will probably in the next few years be like, "Oh, I should rewatch that." Like this is like on that list of movies. Like like Taxi Driver, which I mentioned earlier. I've seen Taxi Driver once or twice before, maybe even 3 times, but I haven't watched it in 20 years. And I'm like, oh, I need to
Yeah.
watch that. I need to watch that. This is one of those movies where at some point, I'll be like, oh yeah, I need to rewatch that.
So for me, it's some of the same. So I'm with you on the quality being a 9 because I
Yeah,
understand why Bertolucci gets the accolades he does. But also, when I look at quality, I think of editing and cinematography. And this being in color pumps that even harder for me, as opposed to
yeah,
Umberto D, which is in all black and white. De Sica did such a great job, but this isn't wooden the way that Umberto
no,
D is. And that's why I was different than you on fun and watchability in comparison to Umberto D. I gave this an 8 for fun and watchability because although the subject matter isn't fun, I want to
yeah,
watch this because it isn't wooden acting.
right, yeah,
A lot of folks have asked when they know I'm doing this, they're like, "Oh, are you going to do James Bond films?" And I said, "We could do some James Bond films." And
yeah,
1970s James Bond films have a lot of this feel, but they never feel as
hmm,
wooden as Umberto D does or cardboard
right,
as that does. And for me, it's interesting to know these two films were made so close together. It
yeah,
is
yeah,
the idea that these two were like what um
18 years
release
apart.
year 18 years apart. So there's a fair amount of time between them. Sorry, there's a fair amount of time between them, but they're both about the same darn period of time, somewhat. And and
Yeah,
and the take on them. Also, here's the big reason I rate this higher. Umberto D is painful to watch. It is
hmm,
heart painful to watch. I can watch The Conformist and not feel as heavy after. I
yeah,
watch
absolutely,
Umberto D and go hug my dog.
yeah,
Like it doesn't have the same. And the big reason why, for me, I gave it a higher fun and watchability is because I can't ever see myself as Marcello.
right,
I could see myself as Umberto Dominicano Ferrari. I
yep,
absolutely could. And that for my personal taste is is close to home, so it's heavy. I know I'm so different than anything Marcelo ever does that even if I have actions that are adjacent to him, I'm like, that's never me. This is entertainment. Umberto D
yeah,
is so much closer to home.
yep, yep. I agree, and yeah, I at worst with this movie as far as relating, I th- I think that I sometimes worry that I'm not brave enough in my political stances and my like not stances but like I like they used to say like
Resolve.
what would I yeah in my resolve exactly I know they used to say like what would we used to wonder what would you do in the civil rights movement if you lived through World War II, and it's like whatever
Mhm.
you're doing now that's what you would do, and it's like oh so I make podcasts. uh I talk I
I
talk about
talk.
it.
I
So I do
talk about it,
worry
right?
about those sides of things with myself. So I like, but I wouldn't say I'm ever going to be like the conformist. But I don't think I'm ever. I don't think I'm ever going to be like a big enough. Maybe I be the professor and like I'm an intellectual who opposes it, and then becomes. I could potentially become like famous enough or like a big enough voice that like I'm a target. I guess, but you know
Yeah.
but it's not
And
like he's in a different country. Like the
yeah.
that's the other thing is with when you're talking about Quadri, he's in a different country. Was he France, right?
Mhm.
And so like in France, it's pre-Nazi takeover of Paris or of France. So like it's not like there's this level of safety, I guess, that would have been assumed to some extent uh, for Quadri. So maybe I am like maybe that's where I'm at. So like, but this again, relation wise, I don't think like oh, like I'm Marcello or I'm this like completely uh unscrupulous like guy who will do whatever it takes to survive.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, if you even consider where this film falls for us ranking wise, like it's not that we ever necessarily relate to characters, which has us rate something what we do. It's how we view it as ourselves. So that's only a small part of it. It is not the only part of it. Like, I don't think any of us can see ourselves in Tick, Tick, Boom, but we did see ourselves in some of the characters. You and I both discussed that in that episode, right? And I don't think that any of us are Ebenezer Scrooge or Bob Cratchit, but this is only 1 point off of what we gave Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Total average. So you can watch a film, and I think the cheap way to connect with an audience is to make characters they can put themselves in. This film goes out of that and challenges the audience to see where they would see themselves as a political dissident. So, real talk, this film's fucking great. I'm so serious. The Conformist for me is probably one of the favorite films we watched so far. And yeah, Milk is probably the closest in the way it feels. Muppet Christmas Carol is high because I have a personal connection to it. But for me, Tick, Tick, Boom feels close to home, feels awesome, feels purposeful. The Conformist just feels interesting and sexy, and it's shot well, and everything about it is something that I would recommend, even though it's a bit heavy. So see it.
What'd you say?
Nothing. You get to find out when you edit. Nope.
Okay, Matthew.
I'm not actually talking shit about you. It's actually usable. It's actually usable footage, so don't feel bad.
All right. So next week we're going to be talking about Partenope. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. They all say it's like they're saying it so quickly in the movie, but I was saying Parthenope the whole time. But it Parthenope, they almost it's almost like Penelope, but it's Parthenope.
Penelope.
Penelope, which I am about halfway through, and Alex has not started yet, and Alex is in for quite a treat.
I am excited. The way he's talking about it, I'm excited.
This is a spoiler alert. It's a movie about a beautiful woman being a beautiful woman, and
no,
darn.
I mean, so Celeste Porta is not unattractive.
No. But wait till you see the movie. Like, I've seen pictures of her in others, just like headshots and stuff, but like it does not sell the just pure magnetism that she has. Like, spoiler alert for next week, because that's what the movie's about. But
in the Umberto D episode, I did say that dark-headed, curly or wavy-haired women are kind of my thing. It's gonna be fun. I might want to watch this one in a dark room by myself.
Also, apparently, the woman who plays Julia in The Conformist is in Parthenope. She plays a character called Parthenope Anziana, which I haven't seen her yet. I don't think. I don't know if that's like a previous iteration of this like
Stefania
concept
Sandrelli.
But anyway, that's next week. We'll talk about it next week.
And then there's Gary Oldman.
Gary
John
Oldman
Cheadle.
is in it. Yes. Yeah.
John Cheadle.
No spoilers.
He's like the most American sounding dude in the cast. It's great. Everybody else is like genuine Italian. Yeah. It's like Gary. It's like Canada, a whole country named Doug. So we appreciate you guys coming on. I am down one Negroni. Yeah. I am excited for our next Italian film. Oh my god!
So yeah,
I drank it during the episode.
Join us next week for Parthenope, or I'll probably pronounce it 12 different ways. Join us for that. And if you want to get these episodes early, I will link below where we have an option to get them as soon as I'm done editing them. $26 for the whole year, you'll get that pass.
Not bad.
And if we sell enough copies of that pass, we will start doing bonus episodes as well.
True.
For those people. All right. So Yeah. Oh, also, please like and subscribe. That'd be great.
We would appreciate it. Come along on our journey through film. We're glad you're here. See you next week.